Hey guys, so today I'm talking about a beneficial soak, drench, or a spray you can spray on your tomatoes. This is something that will cause your tomatoes to grow extremely rapidly, and you're not just limited to tomatoes, but I'm just making this specifically for the tomatoes. In my garden, I keep a record of every recipe and every formula I put on every plant, and then that way I go back later and see how it performs. So this one I think is one of the best. So let's get started and I'll show you exactly how to put this very common kitchen item to use in your garden. So the first ingredient of our formula is just common yogurt. You don't want to use any type of yogurt that's flavored or that has any sugar in it, just plain everyday yogurt. And this contains probiotics. I'm going to put on the screen a item that it does contain that's really going to help with things like powdery mildew, root rot. It will actually outcompete bad microbes and things in the soil and really outperform it, and it will allow your tomatoes to become very healthy very quickly and will speed up growth a lot faster than you would believe, and your yield on your tomatoes will double or sometimes triple if you use this on a regular basis. Now I'm going to divide the video into three portions. The first is going to be why you would do this and the benefits of it, and then how to do it, and then the actual recipes in part three. It's going to be as short a video as possible because I've been told that I stretch out videos far too long, so I'll try to keep it under 10 minutes. But anyways, that's what we're doing. We're talking about this formula first as why. Now the second thing that this formula is going to do is going to boost the plant's natural immunity, which will make it more resistant to stress and diseases and insects. So that's the second of our reasons of why to do this. Now the acidity of this formula is going to help with any diseases that might form on the leaves and the stems, such as powdery mildew, blight, and some of the others that all fall under that type of category. Now the yogurt itself provides calcium, phosphorus, and trace elements, and that in itself can help with a mild boost of nutrients. It's not going to be a massive amount. This isn't going to be like a super strong fertilizer, but it is going to help in a lot of different ways. Now when you add this to the root zone of any plant, specifically tomatoes, it helps with the microbiology in that area. So it really helps the root develop better and become a healthier plant overall, and it just helps along the way. You do this early in the plant's life, whether tomato or any of the other that I have in the garden, it really makes a difference. I've tried it on several and I've really seen a difference from last year. So I want to introduce you to this very simple recipe in three different types of recipes before we move on to how to apply it. Now I use a lot of compost in the garden, and some of them are purchased, some of them are made by myself through a special composter. I'll put a link to that exact composter right here if you want to make your own compost. But this formula will help decompose the compost around the root zone as you have it around the plant, so it kind of speeds that decomposition up. And you can even add this to your compost, but I'll give you the recipe for all this a little bit later. So there's three ways to use this formula. It is one, a foliar spray, a soil drench where you just pour it directly at the base of the plant, and thirdly, a lot of people don't think about doing this before they put a seedling into the garden, but these small seedlings are ready to go out into the garden, so I'm going to use it as a seedling dip. I'm going to dip it about halfway up on this small tomato plant that's ready to go. Now the first recipe I'm going to give you is the soil drench, and there's a couple of ways you can do this, but specifically you want to use rainwater, or if you're using tap water, you need to put it in something like this where it can off-gas the chlorine for 24 hours, but I prefer that you use rainwater because it can have some other beneficial things in it, but that's another video for another day. But we're going to take 1 cup of unsweetened yogurt, and there's going to be no flavor, no sugar in it, so you just want to make sure you do that. We're going to pour it into our gallon of water. We're going to take a simple paint stick from the hardware store, and we're just going to slowly stir this and allow it to sit for about 5 or 10 minutes so it can mix well once you finish stirring, and then go back and stir it one final time before you do the soil drench. You're going to do this right at the base of your plants, and that's going to really make a huge difference. I'm trying not to make a big mess out here, but again, let it sit for about 5 or 10 minutes and then allow it to kind of break down the yogurt, then come back and then stir one more time before going out to your garden and doing the soil drench with this super simple step 1. So you're going to do that soil drenching about every 2 to 4 weeks depending on how your garden is performing. You want to remember that you do it right at the base of the plant and not pour it over the whole plant. So just right there at the root zone. We're going to move on now to the foliar spray, which acts as an antifungal, and it's got a couple of added ingredients that will really boost how it works. Now next, for our Foliar spray, we're doing the same thing. We're using rainwater that I've captured, but if you're using tap water, make sure you let it sit for 24 hours to allow the chlorines to escape. We're going to use 1 cup of the non-sweetened and no flavoring, just plain everyday yogurt. Put that into our water. We're going to again mix it very well. Now next you're going to do, you have to be careful not to mix these up because there's a couple of things in here, but you want to do 1 tablespoon of just ordinary baking soda, not baking powder, but baking soda. I'm going to put that in there. Let's see if I've got the right one here. 1 tablespoon. It doesn't have to be a heaping tablespoon, just a level tablespoon of our baking soda. Next, we're going to put in 1 tablespoon of either, you can do either one. You can either do Castile soap, all natural, it's completely safe, there's no chemicals in it. It's not like the Dawn dishwashing soaps, which I have used in the past. Or, and this is 1 tablespoon either or 1 tablespoon of neem oil. So I'm going to go with the Castile soap. Get this top open here. Again, 1 tablespoon. Just carefully put that in there without making a huge mess again. And we're going to stir it quite well with our paint stick again and make sure it's well mixed before we add it to our sprayer, because it can clog pretty easy. Some of the yogurts, if they're not completely broken down, they can clog the spraying mechanism just a little bit, but it's not like a hard thing. You can just shake it and break them free there. Now one thing that can happen is your yogurt solids don't break down completely, and that's when I recommend putting them into a mason jar. You just pour that up. You can still see there's a few solids in there. Leave a little bit of an air gap so you can do a very vigorous shaking. You can do that before you add it to your sprayer. Make sure the top's on tight. Make sure there's no leak before you start shaking. You just shake it up, and that's really gonna, by leaving that little air gap, it's gonna push the formula back and forth and break it up into much smaller and finer pieces of our yogurt until it's just a liquid and it's not kind of a jelly-like substance there. So just shake it well before you put it into your sprayer. Use a little funnel there and you can put it into your sprayer, and we'll head out to the garden and I'll show you how to apply it to your tomatoes for a foliar feeding that prevents bacterial issues. Now you want to spray this on your leaves of your tomato plants either early morning or late afternoon, and this is going to prevent, or it can slow down and stop, fungal infections. So just remember, don't do it in the middle of the day, only early morning or late afternoon, and just give it an overall spray. If you got my special solo sprayer, you can actually spray from underneath, and I'll put a link to that in the description. But this is just my standard handheld sprayer, and we'll just mist it all over to help stop and slow down fungal infections. Now next is our seedling root dip. We're just going to take a 1/4 cup of yogurt, and again we're going to put it in about 1 quart of rainwater or off-gassed tap water. I prefer rainwater. And we're just going to shake that carefully. Hopefully our top's on very thoroughly. And this is going to be for the seedling root drench, and I'll explain to you exactly the benefits of the seedling root dip. The seedling root dip. This is a very small tomato seedling, but we're going to dip this into that simple mixture there about 50% of the way up, and that's going to introduce beneficial bacteria early on, so there'll be strong early growth, and it'll just take off a lot faster and produce more, less susceptible to diseases and different fungal issues that might come up if we didn't do this. Now this is a homemade composter I made, and I'll put a link up at the top right so you can take a look at it. But for roughly about every 5 gallons of compost you're creating, or your manure, if you have a manure pile, you want to put a 1/2 cup of yogurt in there and mix it in well. This will speed up decomposition. It'll boost microbial activity and really help it take off a lot faster in helping your garden. Now this next one is great for preventing blossom end rot in peppers or tomatoes. You want to take 1/2 cup of your plain yogurt, 1 gallon of our collected rainwater, 1 tablespoon of non-fragranced Epsom salt. Make sure you don't get one that has any additives, because a lot of these they're used for soaking in bathtubs and they add some horrible fragrances. So just remember, it's 1 tablespoon of Epsom salt, plain Epsom salt, 1 tablespoon of bone meal, or if you want to use eggshells, you can put them in a blender and make them into a powder, but I prefer bone meal myself. Now you're going to mix all of this up and put it in a like this right here. We're going to put it in a pitcher and we're going to pour it as a soil drench to stop the blossom end rot, if I can get that out real quickly. Now this next one is a soil enricher recipe. It makes the soil really rich. So we're going to take the same thing. We're going to use our picture here. We're going to take 1 cup of our plain yogurt, 1 tablespoon of, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar or molasses, but I think brown sugar is more common in most people's kitchens. Molasses is a little bit less frequent. The last thing, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of worm castings. And if you don't have access to worm castings, actually you can order them on Amazon. This bag actually came from Amazon. It is really good worm castings, and I order this about once or twice a year to put across the garden, and it really makes a huge difference. Worms are one of the most important things that we have in our vegetable gardens. Now, I already know the most common question everyone's going to ask me is, how long will this store for? It does not store well. It's only going to last for about 24 to 48 hours once you mix it. Now, you can store it in the refrigerator for up to 3 days, but if it's at room temperature, it's going to spoil very quickly. So just remember, you want to use this as soon as you mix it. If you don't use all of it, you can store it for a few days in your fridge, but then it's not going to work so well. Just remember, storage life on any of these recipes are very limited. So guys, if you have a question about this video or any previous video, I'd hope you'd become a public subscriber first, because I put subscribers to the front line when it comes to questions. I get literally hundreds of comments and questions a day, and it's really hard for me to keep up with it. So I always give priority to people who did me the favor of becoming a subscriber, and I really appreciate that. So guys, I really appreciate you watching, and have a great day.